All right, so now that we're recording, I'll mention that this PDF is very, very helpful. So we'll scroll down. We already skipped through the part about how to make a username and password, how to download the newest installer versions from your products tab of your portal. And here are the minimum specifications. And we already covered the online services, how to connect from your homepage from the little icon up here at the top. And then the tutorials, once again, you can find them here in your software. Okay, so let's skip ahead. These are the parts that you have in your box. So while you're scanning, you're going to see the light on the back of your LCD screen change. It's going to be either red, green, or blue. Sometimes you're going to get a little icon that's kind of gray, and that's just indicating red means you're too close. So you do need to scan, bring the scanner farther away from the part. Green means you're at the right distance between the scanner and the part, and blue means you're a little bit too far. If you do go too far or too close, at some point, there is a chance that you will have the scanner start vibrating. And that's the scanner letting you know that maybe you need to step back a little bit for fear of, maybe you're going to not be able to see the scan part for a few more seconds until you go back to the green zone. Okay. Thank you, Mike, for the comment of good so far as speed. Thank you so much. All right, so then over here, we have system connection. So most of you guys have probably already connected your system, but for anybody that is having trouble, just remember you have 2 ports that connect to your scanner. Then the end of that cable, one of them is going to go into the USB 3.0 portion of your laptop. The other portion of that cable is going to go to the power cable, which gets plugged into the wall. Right. So with Peel.OS, you don't need any separate license. You just have the scanner, you have the software, and you can, scan from any computer as long as it has the minimum specifications and as long as it has the software installed. So whether you bought 1 license or 5, as far as scanning goes, you can scan from any of those computers that has the installer already. The licensing, when you have the Peel.CAD, that is, or the Peel, the pro version of the Peel.CAD, that is limited to how many licenses you have. So if you have 1 license, you can only use that 1 license from 1 computer at any given time. If you have 2 licenses, you can use them both at the same time from different computers. So just keep that in mind, that if you do need more than 1 person working on it at the same time, you'll have to get another license. But it is really nice that you're able to work offline. So you don't have to use the internet to check out that license. So if you go over to your homepage, you'll be able to go to the scan portion here, and then you can click on, I believe here, you can check out your license for, oh yeah, here, sorry, scan to CAD. You would go over here and you can check out a license to work offline. This is very helpful if you're going to be needing to use this scan to CAD software or Peel.CAD Pro software, and you're somewhere that doesn't have good internet. You can check it out offline for 30 days. So this is something, for example, that I usually do when I'm at a trade show, and I do need to show off that CAD software. But there's a chance that I might not have internet at the trade show, for example. So this will be very useful if you guys are traveling, you guys are out in the field, and you need to do CAD work without internet. Okay, so in the self-training guide, you'll also see that you have the description of the parameters, the scan, and the merge steps. Now, this is for the older version. This is for the people that had the Peel.OS, but the material and the information is still all the same. So when you set your parameters, that's where you can change the part size, the details, the colors. But we'll go through those in more detail here in the next few steps here. Okay, so yeah, actually, let's go through that with the actual software itself. Okay, so if I'm ready to start scanning, just click over here on New Scan. I already have my scanner connected. So this is the home page or this is the interface page that you'll see once you're ready to go. Now, for those of you guys that are used to previous, maybe Peel to CAD, this might not be too different for you guys, but you have some different panels up here at the top. So for example, I just clicked on the system panel, and that's going to open up my options for how I'm going to scan and calibration and things like that. So first step is calibration. Whenever you do go to a new place, you're going to want to start calibrating. So you just click on this little icon right here. This is the calibrate PL3 button. And remember, I got there by clicking on the system panel up here at the top. Once that shows up, then I'll see over here my image of what I should be doing. So I'm going to open up my window here so you guys can see me down here at the bottom. Hello. And we're going to do a quick calibration. Okay. I'm just going to open up my rugged case. Usually put it on a chair, is one of the nice things about having a portable scanner is that you can, move it around. So I'm going to make myself comfortable when I'm calibrating it so that I don't have to be reaching too far. Now, I slid the calibration plate up and out, and then I just lay it here. And if I take a really close look, I'll actually expand this guy here. If I take a really close look at the calibration plate, I'll notice that I have a curved end here and then a square end here. So that's how it fits nicely into these locations too. And then when I set it down, I can go ahead and also notice that on my screen for the calibration part, I have little square nubs here and little circular ones over here. So that's how I have it facing me down here. Then I take my scanner and I just press the play button here on the back. And what I want to do is I want to align my scanner on my screen with the ghost image scanner that's perfectly still. So if I get too close, it's not going to see anything. If I get really far away from the scanner where it should be, it's going to show up in red. So that's a nice guidance of like letting me know, okay, you're pretty close there. And then once you have the scanner in the right place, you want to make sure that the crosshairs are in line with each other. So right now I'm purposefully angling it off, but then I bring it over to the center and I hear my computer give me a little chime to let me know that I've done that step. So I'm really just going to bring it up every time. Just continue slowly moving it up without really angling too much. Okay, now on this step, notice that that yellow plate is now diagonal. We've made it really easy so that you can actually take the calibration plate and just put it right there in the box. The box has its own little notches so that it just sits at the right angle. So let me just press pause for a second. It sits at the right angle without having to have me like angle it in any kind of like specific way or hold it or anything. So then I just press play and I just keep scanning up. And once I have everything there, then I just rotate it. This is also a nice convenient thing that I am able to put it on my rotating chair. I can just rotate the calibration plate and I don't even have to move myself. But yeah, once I have all of my little chimes going off for my calibration plate, I would put this back in. You always want to keep this safe because you want to make sure that you're not going to have it get damaged or run over by a forklift or something like that. Yes, good point, Jesse. Be aware that the case may tip over if it's set on a chair. That's a good point. So you don't have to log on to the online services when you're scanning. It's not necessary, but if you're going to be doing the CAD, then that part is definitely yeah, it's necessary to have that available to you, at least so you can check it out offline to work offline. So the scanning part, you don't need to log on to online services, but the CAD part you do. And then Steve has a question, why does the display show the scanner not in the direction that I would be holding it? Can I change the view? There is a possibility that we could change the view. Let's see. Let's see here. Sometimes I know that, see, so I'll go back to system, I'll go to calibration, and let's see if I can rotate this or something. Okay, yeah, so I can rotate it on my screen. So if I do need to change the view, I can. I know that if I do need to scan the calibration plate from the opposite side, oftentimes the scanner software will understand that I'm looking at it from a different point of view, so it'll automatically switch it for me. So that's a nice convenient thing too. I usually just like to start from the same side that it's asking me to, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you can't, then yeah, you can do it from the other point of view, and you can change the view there. Okay. So I'll cancel out of this calibration. By the way, if you are curious, you can always go to your calibration journal and see when the last time you guys calibrated was. So looks like today I calibrated at 12:20, and yeah, so there we go, 12:19. I am on Pacific Coast time, so hopefully you guys aren't freaking out that time hasn't passed for you guys today yet. Okay. And does the calibration set the coordinate system? No, it does not. So we'll go over that part now. Okay, so let's scan a part just real quick. I'm just going to scan some random anything. Let's see, this dumbbell here. I like to work out while I work. That's why I'm so buff. Okay, so I'll put this little dumbbell here. I will take my scanner. Oh, and in case you guys didn't notice that quick little button I did, this one right here, this brings you into scan mode. So that's what's going to allow you to see the play button in the first place here. If you are not seeing that play button, see how you see a scanner there at the bottom? It's probably because you're not in scan mode. But yeah, you can just press that scan button, and now it's going to come up so I can start scanning again. Okay. Real quick, actually, before we get too far, right now I'm going to start scanning this part, and it's going to scan the targets and the surface at the same time. Now, some of you guys that are scanning really large objects, maybe you don't need the entire thing scanned, and maybe you're just trying to measure from one side to the other with a scanner. You could do that by placing targets all over the part, and then scanning just the targets, and then afterwards you can scan just the forward end and the back end of the part. I'll explain what I mean, because that's kind of, you know, I just said a lot of words, I know, but I'll try to explain that in a little bit here. So first I'm just trying to get this scan guy going here. So you might notice that there's some noise in the background. Don't worry about that, because we're going to clean all of that up after we're done with the scan. And notice that as I'm scanning, I see everything in green. Even my targets are showing up in green. But when I get too close, it's red. And at some point, it's not scanning anymore because I'm super close. So all I have to do is just back it back up to where it sees something that it already recognized from before. I am getting my desk in the background, but remember, I'm going to be able to just clean that up really easily on the next steps. Oh, in case you guys are noticing too, I have these little brackets, those little metal brackets. Kind of just zoom in here on the screen so you know what I mean. But these little brackets they're just little L brackets that I've placed targets on. And the whole reason I've done that is so that when I scan from this point of view, I can still see some stickers in the background, and it's still able to track nicely. Now, remember, you don't need stickers all of the time if you have a general, like a very different type of changing shape of a part, like a face, for example. You wouldn't need to put any stickers. I just do this since I'm going to be putting a rotary table on here and I'm going to be spinning the part. That way, when it sees, you know, my back wall, it's not getting confused and trying to attach itself to that geometry, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've scanned the majority of this. So if I do need to scan more, I can. I just press play again, and then I go and continue scanning. So hopefully you guys all know at least this stuff so far. But I'm going to show you guys some of the next steps too of cleanup and other stuff. We're also going to go over clipping planes. That's something that's going to be really helpful for you guys that are scanning, especially if you have like a rotary table or a location that you always scan on that has like targets already there. So I'll stop the scan. By the way, that hotkey I just did was space. That also gets you back in and out of this scan option. Okay, so I'm just gonna check it out, see if I'm if I can just delete a bunch of stuff at the same time. So I'm gonna just do, let's see, I'm gonna do this selection tool. So you have a bunch of different selection tools. I like to do connect a lot of the time. That's just going to automatically highlight everything that's connected to that first thing I click on. So notice everything that's touching that first thing, it is now in orange. And I can say keep only, and then that's going to get rid of a lot of this other random noise that I don't really need, like my desk that was in the background. Okay. But now this is a little bit cleaner. I want to show you guys a nice little trick. There is something called clipping planes, and these are very helpful. So you have different methods of creating clipping planes. You can create a clipping plane using 3 targets, by selecting 3 vertices, by just clicking on some flat surface, or by drawing a line. Just so you have an idea, let's go through just the first one. Select 3 targets. So I'm just going to select 1, 2, and 3 targets on that plane. Automatically, everything below that plane is going to get shown in red. And once I hit create, I now have a clipping plane that's going to just automatically delete anything below that surface. So this means that if I decide to save this little thing, this, I call it a scan template, I can go, let's say, for example, file, export the scan template. And then that's going to save a file. And then the next time that I save, or the next time that I start scanning, I can import this scan template that ends with .csp. And I will automatically have those targets in place with my plane that's automatically going to delete the surface from below. Okay. So yeah, let's do that real quick. So let me first clean this up a little bit more. Delete. Oh, by the way, what I just did, I highlighted the part and then I did a hotkey, Control I. Control I is the same thing as this guy right here, invert selection. And then I clicked on delete. So I highlighted the part I wanted to keep, I inverted it, and then I deleted all that other stuff. Okay, so now that we have that, let's, I feel like I'm worried I'm going to be skipping some stuff. So let's just jump back to the PDF real quick and make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so kind of just the typical workflow. This is all the same thing. And you can export an STL and TXT and OBJ. So let's go through. Oh, okay, so some of these tools are nice, but well, actually, we're slightly different now, so let's go through them one by one. So setting the resolution. Okay, this is a great one. So by default, your resolution is going to be set to 1. That's what you have right here. Your resolution's right here. You have this option called Smart Resolution. Smart Resolution can be either high, standard, or off, or you can do custom. But yeah, typically you're going to either do standard or off is usually the thing. Standard means that even though I have, let's do this real quick, triangles in wireframe. So right now, if we look at all these triangles, they are all 1 millimeter in size. But if I click on this finalize right here, it's going to make sure that my scan parameters are in action. So that means that my resolution, even though it was at 1mm size triangles, because I had smart resolution, it gave me also some smaller triangles, half of the value of 1mm, in the areas where there's more details needed. Okay, so notice you have in the flatter zones, large triangles, and in the sharper edges, we have small triangles. Oh, how do you turn off the buzzing haptic? Sometimes it can be a little annoying. You know what? I don't know. I'm not sure if we can, but I'll ask and see if there's a way to do it. And if there is a way, I'll let you guys know. But thank you for that question. So I will give you a heart on that, so I remember to go back to that question and get back to you guys. Okay. Okay, so we have the resolution and then also these finalized scan parameters. Right now, it's set to standard. This is just the basic standard mode, right? But if you don't know what that standard means, you can click on more details. And when you do, you'll see that standard means optimized volumetric accuracy is off, field positioning targets is on, optimized accuracy boundaries is on, like all these random things. There is a lot of information here. I don't think we'll have time to go through them all today, but standard is a great one. I typically leave it on standard. If you do want to play with them and get a better idea of what they each do, you can click on custom. And then you can just play with them and test them. But you'll see here there's a watertight option, so it forces it to be watertight, which in this case, I don't want that because maybe I'm going to scan the other side and I'm going to merge it. So I just leave this as standard, but you also have the options of mesh enhancement, which that has its own settings, and then Express has its own types of settings too. Okay, so I'm going to go back to standard, and then we'll continue from here. Okay, so go back to the view also, going back to the triangles. Okay, now, if I'm thinking about wanting to merge my part, this is something that's very important for you guys. If you guys are scanning smaller parts and you want to have the whole thing, then at this point, after I've finished with scan 1 and I've cleaned everything else out on the outside, I can click on add scan. Super important. And then let me open this up too. And so after I've clicked on add scan, over here in my project tree, it's going to pop up any second now, but there is scan 2. So scan 2 is ready to go. I'm ready to start scanning. I still see scan 1 in the background, so if I feel like that's going to be bothering me, I can just hide the eye icon here. Okay, the eye icon was right here. Sorry if I'm clicking a little too fast. Okay, so now I take my part. I'm going to flip it exactly 180 degrees so that when I align the two, there's no guesswork as to what side is what. Okay. And then I'm just going to, oh yeah, I need to press the either space bar or here. And now I'm in scan mode. Okay. Scan the other side. Oh, and I didn't think about using my scan template, but I could have done that to erase my table and everything below if I had thought ahead. But just know that you can import that. You would go to File, Import, Scan Template, and then you would have your rotary tables targets with a clipping plane. You might also have this other thing that's going to try to, the scan in the background, but you can delete that in your navigation tree if you need to. It's one of those things that you'll kind of have to just see it when you get there, but yeah. Okay, so I feel like I have scanned probably enough of this bottom part here. The beautiful thing about the rotary table is you don't have to get up. I can just do this all from sitting down on my butt. Okay, so once I have everything, then I stop the scan. And I do my little delete all this random stuff. Okay, so some other selection tools. I highly recommend that you guys go through all of them and just play with each one so you understand what each one does. But another selection tool that I like using is similar normal. You'll notice the little yellow, just the flat surface of this icon is highlighted, only the flat surface. That means that it highlights flat surfaces. So, okay, so if we hold Control, oops, I didn't click on it. So if I go over here, similar normal, and then if I hold Control, I can click on a flat surface. Now, right now, it just highlighted what it sees as flat relative to that first place that I clicked on. If I want it to be more permissive with what it considers to be flat, I go over to this selection tolerance and I bring it all the way up, and it considers all of that flat. I didn't change my mesh, I'm just changing what it considers to be flat. Okay, so then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to creep up, right? So notice right here, if I zoom in super close, I'm still, if I hit delete right now, I still am going to have this extra material here. So I'm going to click grow selection, and it's going to kind of flood that up. And I'm okay with deleting a little part of my scan as long as I've deleted everything from the table. And that's because I'm going to merge it with the other side anyway, and the other side has all of that information. So it's okay if I delete a little bit. And I click on delete, or I can also hit delete from my keyboard. And then this deletes it. Okay. Once again, I go to my connect tool, highlight the part I want to keep, and I can choose keep only, or I can do that little trick that I do, Control I, delete. Okay. There's my dumbbell on the other side. And now I want to align these two together. You might notice you have a little align section right here. So you have the ability to align using surface best fit, using targets. What are these other ones? These are other types of alignments that you can do. But for the most part, if you're just merging, you're going to want to do one of these. Now, if I do target alignment, it's not going to do a great job because it's going to align the targets of my rotary table to the targets of my rotary table. It recognizes that those are the same thing. So it would just try to align my part like this. I don't really want that. So I'm going to hit cancel. And then I'm going to go to my surface best fit alignment. Okay. With surface best fit, I just tell the software, yeah, let's see if you can automatically align my part. So I hit best fit. And we'll see if it does it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You always want to check. Okay, and there it assumed that this is the same side. Okay, that's not what I want, so I'll hit reset. And I actually want to do it manually now. I want to tell the software myself how to align the part. So I bring one side here, and I know that this is the other side. I can also notice I have a little writing on this end. So I'll look for that side with the writing. Here it is. And this is, let's see. So this is from this point of view. And if I look at the writing here, I probably want to rotate it just a little bit so that they're the same way. I don't know if you guys can see that on your screens, but there's some like writing that's kind of diagonal there and writing that's kind of diagonal there too. So that's how I know that I'm looking at the part from the same angle. And now I just need to click on minimum of 3 points to give it a pre-alignment, a manual pre-alignment. So I'll click on maybe here, 1. And I know I have to think ahead, right? If I click here, I cannot click here on this one. So I need to put my second point maybe here. Okay. So here's point 1, here's point 2. And then point 3, I'll do it like somewhere like right above that little line there. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So point 1, point 2, and I'm just trying to get it close. I don't need it to be perfect because the software is going to shimmy it a little bit more so that it's nicely aligned. Okay, so once I think that it's decently aligned, and I can check it. Okay, so yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect, remember, at this point, but then I hit best fit. And then the software does the rest to shimmy the two scans together so that it's in contact with itself as much as possible. So I'd like to see a nice little pattern like that. So I'll click on OK. Now keep in mind, this was just the alignment. Okay, just the alignment of scan 1 and scan 2. They're not merged together yet. So to do that, to merge them, I click on merge scans up here. And then I can choose what my final resolution is going to be at that point. And I can also choose to keep both scan 1 and scan 2 available to me. Right now, if I were to just click on accept, I will no longer have scan 1 and scan 2 in my navigation tree. I'll only have the final merge scan. So if I'm not sure, maybe I want to go back, maybe I want to do some editing later, or maybe I'm just starting off and I'm scared, I can just click on this and then click on accept. And then once it's done merging, I'll have side 1, side 2, and my merged scan. Right. Okay, perfect. So we have this done. We have our scan 1, scan 2, and our merge scan. So let's hide the targets too. So we can look around. Looks pretty good. Now, let's say that you had put some targets. If you ever want to delete some targets, you can just click on the word positioning here. You'll see all your targets here. And then if you wanted to delete just some of your targets, this might come up in the future, then you have a few selection tools and you can just highlight whatever you want to get rid of. And then you can hit delete on your keyboard or up here. Just so you guys know, that might come in handy someday. Okay, so let's go back to our merge scan. All right, so let's look at what's next on here. So just to make sure we're not skipping anything. Okay, so keep in mind, resolution and accuracy are not the same thing. Your scanner is going to be as accurate as possible if you're using targets, everywhere. If you're scanning like a large car, for example, or just a car, you're going to want to make sure you put targets all over because you're going to have better accuracy if you do use those targets. Now, if you have enough geometry and you trust in your skills already, then you don't have to put that many targets, but it's up to you. Okay, so these are the operating principles, kind of covered that a little bit, but because of time, I'm going to just skip ahead. Note that you can scan based off of geometry, based off of targets, and based off of texture, or remember, that's the word for color. So if you do need to scan something, if you go over to system, notice you have the ability to scan with just targets. This forces the scanner to be as accurate as possible. If you do targets and geometry, that's the general one that I always do. It is going to be searching for targets, but it doesn't have to absolutely see targets because it's also basing itself off of geometry. Of course, if I'm scanning like a flat wall, I'm going to need to put targets on there because it's not going to be able to do much with the geometry. Oh yeah, and then if you're scanning a person, I highly recommend checking this box for semi-rigid object. This is going to allow for micro movements, like a little bit of breathing and stuff like that. But yeah, because humans, they're going to be moving. It's going to be hard to scan without that. There's also automatic shutter. So if I uncheck this box, now I can change my shutter on my own. I don't recommend doing this unless you really have to, because automatic shutter does a great job of scanning everything generally. If at some point you're scanning something that's very dark and it's not showing up, come over here to the system panel, uncheck this box, and bring your shutter speed up high. If you're scanning something that's very light and it's not coming in, once again, uncheck this box, bring your shutter down low, and then try scanning that part. You can also do that by clicking on the, like over here on the LCD screen, you also have like a little sun and moon icon. So that'll change it from automatic shutter to dark mode or light mode. But I always leave it here just because it's easier and the scanner does most of the work for me. Okay, let's see what else here. Okay, so using positioning targets, this is probably the part that really gets people the most because they think, oh, my scanner's not scanning, it keeps losing tracking. Well, a lot of the times that it's losing tracking, a high chance of it is probably that you don't have enough stickers. If you're scanning something that's very repetitive, think about it. Like the scanner needs to scan based off of geometry or targets, right? And if this portion of a cylinder looks exactly like this portion of a cylinder, it's not going to know where it is in space. So whenever you have something that's cylindrical or just repetitive, you're going to want to place targets all over that part. So yeah, if something is having a hard time tracking, add more stickers because that's usually the thing that'll help it because you don't have enough geometry. But yeah, so cylindrical sections, something where it's repetitive, because if you're thinking about it, look, if you scan this flower here, at some point, if you flip your scanner upside down or around like too quickly, it might think that this petal is this petal, and it's going to scan from a different point of view. So some of you guys might have experienced something like that. If that happens, just add more targets so that it doesn't get confused. And then that way it knows what it's looking at because those targets are in such a random pattern. You can imagine it kind of like the constellation of stars. It recognizes those target patterns, and then it knows which way is up from there. But yeah, anything that's symmetric, anything that has like a spherical shape, just anything where it's just continuous, it could get confused. Like, it's like cylinder, repetitive, symmetric. You want to add more targets to differentiate one side from the other. Why is the last scan type option grayed out? Oh, great question. Okay, so over here under systems, targets and geometry and texture. The reason it's grayed out right now is because I already started scanning. And if I wanted to use color as part of my tracking, I would have had to have requested the software to start scanning with color in the first place. So if we go around here, there's under scan parameters, there's this little checkbox, also grayed out because I've already started scanning. And it says acquire texture or acquire color. If I had checked that box before I started scanning, then I would be able to see the color on my scan. And also I would be able to use the target's geometry and texture option as my tracking method. But because I just pressed scan, it just was at the default of targets and geometry. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you, Jesse. Okay, so let's jump back here. So using positioning targets. So keep in mind that when you are putting positioning targets down, remember, it's kind of like a constellation of stars. So when you look up at the sky, you see the Big Dipper, and you know that that's the Big Dipper because of where those are relative to each other. Similarly, the scanner is looking at these 4 stickers, for example, and it knows that nothing is going to change relative to these 4 stickers. They're all going to stay perfectly in place, so it can continue moving and scanning more based off of where those stickers are. So it's important to not put them like in a straight line pattern, because like, sure, you could look at 5 stars in a row, but you don't really know which way might be north or south after that. So you do need to put them more in like a pattern in X and Y directions. It's also not a great idea to group the targets if you're using targets as your main method of tracking. So you do want to separate them a bit. And that way it sees multiple targets at any given point. Okay, when you're using the positioning targets, you do want to keep them about 3 to 4 millimeters away from the edges or the details. This is because the scanner can't guess what's happening under the targets. So you're just gonna have to, wherever you place the target, you have to keep in mind that the software is just gonna kind of blend maybe 3 or 4 millimeters away from the target as kind of like not a flat surface necessarily, but it's going to try to go with the contour of the shape. But just keep in mind, you don't want to do that if you care about the details underneath. And you also don't want to bend the target. So the scanner's looking for a nice flat circle or flat-ish circle. And if it sees this, it's not really going to recognize that very well. You also don't want to work with dusty or dirty targets. So if at some point you have some issues with your accuracy, make sure your targets are not being covered up with spray or anything. So if you are going to use those sprays, we recommend that you maybe test with the scanner first to see if you can scan the material. If it's too shiny or if it's too see-through, then you're going to want to spray the part, and then you're going to want to clean up those spots before you put the targets on. Otherwise, it won't really stick to the powder. And then lastly, you don't want to use damaged targets. That's another one that's really important. So if you are scanning smaller items or items that you really shouldn't be putting targets on because you need to get that color or those details, you can do a little workaround by placing some stickers in the background. You can use the rotary table. That helps a lot too. And then these little turtles, you can actually download them from right here. So you can click right here on this link, which you guys should all have the PDF. If anybody doesn't have this PDF, please put it in the comments and I'll send it to you directly. But something else other people do too is they'll use little magnetic sheets and put targets on there and reuse those sheets. If you have a limited amount of targets and you're not going to be able to, you're going to have to make them last, then you can use this too. This is a great way to do that. And then using positioning targets for large items. So super important if you're scanning like a car, for example, keep in mind that that accuracy is going to change if you have a longer or larger part. So with, let's say if you're scanning a dinosaur, it's going to be a little bit less accurate than if you're scanning like a tennis ball, for example. So when you are scanning that dinosaur, make sure you are taking the shortest path possible from every direction. For example, let's say I wanted to measure between here to here. And instead of just scanning this little area, I decided to scan from this point all the way around and then all the way here and all the way up. And then by the time I got here, I took 4 meters distance to just measure this point from here to here. And that means that it's going to give me less accurate measurement than if I had just scanned in a way that would, lower that path. So here, 1.6 meters versus 4 meters is going to give me a much better accuracy. Okay, then using the positioning targets, so this is kind of like the best path that you want to do. So if you're scanning a hood of a car, you want to start in the middle, go out, maybe, slide side to side a little bit, and then come back to the middle. Same thing, out, side to side, in. Once you have done all of these outer extremities, then you can go around and get the rest of the other stuff. This used to be a PowerPoint and the scanner moved. So sorry, that's not there right now. Okay, part preparation. If you're scanning reflective objects or shiny material or see-through material, you do want to put spray on those items, or you can cover them with tape. Some people, if it's like a part that you're never going to have to worry about again, you can even paint the part if you feel like it. So these are some different scanning spray options. These are the ones that disappear on their own. So some disappear after a few minutes, after a few hours, etc. And then if you don't have the budget for that, then you can also go with the MagnaFlux Spot Check Developer. That one you do have to clean up afterwards, but it allows you to do things like spray see-through items. So if there is a video online where you can actually see somebody scanning a Coca-Cola bottle like this one. But yeah, so part preparation, you want to make sure you clean up the little spots before you scan. This is your standoff distance. You want to stay about 15 inches away from the part that you're scanning. Okay, scanner calibration. So you want to protect your calibration plate. Every single time you finish using it, make sure you put it away because that calibration plate goes with your scanner. And if something happens to your calibration plate, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure fully, but I think you have to actually send your scanner and your calibration plate back so that they can calibrate your scanner to a new calibration plate and make sure that everything's up to standards according to that calibration plate. So just be aware of that. That way you don't have to worry about that stress. So just put it away every time. But yeah, you don't want to use you don't want to place targets around the calibration plate because the scanner is going to be looking for just the targets that are on the plate. Okay, so we did the calibration earlier. So this is the other thing I mentioned about the shutter speed. So little lightning bolt on the back of your scanner, that's just the automatic shutter. But you also have the option of like dark mode if you're scanning a dark part, or light mode if you're scanning a light part. Okay. Just want to get through the important stuff here. Okay, acquisition rules. Here we go. Okay, so we'll skip that because we don't have that option there. Clean. Okay, so cleaning, we talked a little bit about that. Just want to make sure I'm not skipping anything that I haven't talked about yet. We talked about merging scans. And since I'm recording this, I will be able to share this with everyone afterwards. Okay. Okay, basic entities. So once we're ready, we can send our stuff to, oh yeah, there we go, alignments. That's what we need to do. Okay, so for everybody that has a Peel.CAD license, Pro license, which I believe is everybody here, what we need to do next is we need to start thinking about how we're going to align our part. So right now, at this point, you finished the scan and you're ready to start doing some more like cleanup type of stuff. So you can go over here to the Send to Scan to CAD module. Now, if you just wanted to just export your STL at this point, you would just right click and do, oh wait, sorry, I need to, sorry. Export mesh, there we go. So you go to right click, export mesh, and this allows you to save it as an STL or any of these other methods here, okay? Typically, STL is going to be the main one that you use. All right, so we have that. Then when you go into the next step, that's the Send to Scan to CAD module, you're going to see some of your tools are going to change up here. But that's pretty much the end of the training